The job that I got now is pretty much my dream job. For anybody who's dreaming about working in the music industry, make sure to follow your dream. I know it sounds really cheesy said like this, but there is nothing in my resume that would have led me to work in the music industry in the first place. The only reason why I ended up here is because on the side I was modifying amplifiers, building guitar pedals, nerding on forums about like the gear that this guitarist or that guitarist was using on stage. And I've made my way to a state where now I can work on those products that I used to be fascinated about.
My guest today is Neural DSP's plugin product manager and product lead for its new Mantra vocal plugin, Francois Barrillon. Neural DSP is known for pushing the boundaries of guitar and bass processing, but the company recently made the leap into the vocal space with the launch of Mantra. Mantra is designed as a complete vocal studio in a single plugin and unifies everything from pitch correction and compression, harmonies, and effects into one streamlined interface. During the interview, we talked about Neural DSP's expansion in plugins, latency concerns for music production, innovative features for Mantra, and much more. I spoke with Francois from his office in France. Neural is known for guitar, everything about guitar and bass. And I'm curious why you'd venture into Mantra, into the land of vocal plugins especially.
There's two answers to this. The first one is that if you look at the Neural DSP website, we always stated that we wanted to be a company that works not only for guitarists but for musicians eventually. So it was sort of written already like 5 years ago when the company like really started to dig into plugins that we would go into that field at some point. And the second reason is way more, well, pragmatic, let's say. We have been developing this modeling technology, which is based on neural network for quite some time now. And part of the research that we've done was on how we could leverage this technology to model gear that is not only guitar related, but also studio related. And everything pretty much started from there. There was this need to, broaden the scope of our product ranges, while also a need to justify the research that we've been doing for this very long time on the modeling side. So we were like, okay, we have an amazing library of DSP modules, whether they are delay, reverbs, etc., that we can tweak and repurpose for vocal processing to a certain extent. Some stuff will need to be redone from scratch, and there's also everything that we can now model using this new technology. That included, in our case, compressors and those distortion units that you will find in Mantra as well. And add to this, like all the work that we've done on pitch shifting, and yeah, we ended up there pretty much.
One of the things I noticed, there was a separate record mode, and you don't normally see that in vocal plugins. So why did you go there?
So you have two modes in Mantra. You have mixing and tracking, and their main purpose is just to, lighten the signal chain a little bit when you're tracking vocals to make sure that the latency is the lowest possible. And then when you're in the mixing stage, then you basically compromise the latency to get like better quality. And this was like one of the top things that we had in mind for this plugin, is that the chain is massive in Mantra. You have like many modules in the pre-section, then you get this harmonizer, then those different like spatial effects. But like if you do that in a DAW, if you chain all those effects, oftentimes you will end up with something that induces at least like a solid 50 milliseconds of latency. Often more than this. So we are like, okay, how can we make sure that as a user, I can get something that I can track with and reliably? And this is what we achieved with this tracking mode.
That's pretty cool, actually. Again, you don't see that often, and it's something that's pretty much needed, because now, when I grew up in the business, you never tracked with any kind of effects, and basically you did it pretty clean, and that's not the case anymore. Pretty much everybody tries to get the sound right there, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just another approach, another way of thinking.
there's something beautiful that happens when you track through the signal chain, is that it acts as a confidence booster as well. I don't know if you sing, or if you've probably recorded many singers for sure, but like the simple fact of engaging a compressor, like in line with the microphone in the studio, you can see sometimes in the vocal booth, like that the person that sings, like all of a sudden feels more confident in whatever they're going to sing. Same thing happened with, well, people who are less good singers. Well, there is this pitch correction module in Mantra that you can activate, and that works real time. Well, sometimes if you're a poor singer like me, well, it's a very good confidence booster as well. And getting the ability to do that real time is really, really nice as an artist, I think.
What is the latency, especially with something like that? Because that does require DSP to in order to work.
So in tracking mode, we have 93 samples of latency. Without the autotune and with the pitch correction, if I update this, we get to, yeah, pretty much the same thing. So 93 sample, I can do the math real quick, but like at 44K.1, that's almost nothing.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome, definitely. I also saw that it will do doubles and harmonies for you, which again is pretty awesome because it's all within one plugin rather than having to go to multiple plugins.
It's funny because the plugin is called Mantra, but it really embodies that idea of like what is Neural DSP's mantra when it comes to making software plugins. Our mantra has always been to deliver like full suite of effects and amplifier and stuff like this. And Mantra embodies this idea very well as well. It's a full, complete toolbox for singers and songwriters. So yes, of course, you get your bread and butter delay and like compressors, etc. But we wanted just to go one step further and be a bit more creative as well with this harmonizer, etc.
Just leaving Mantra for a second, I have a good friend who's a studio bass player here in Los Angeles, and he does do a lot of travel gigs as well. And he always raves to me. He says, "I got my I forget which pedal board, which neural pedal he has, but he said now it saves me from taking everything. I don't have to bring my pedal board. I don't have to bring my amplifier." And every time he does a gig, he calls me up and he raves about it. So good job. This is someone I never thought would go that direction, but there you go.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think we've achieved something with Quad Cortex or Nano Cortex, which is the smaller version of Quad Cortex.
That's what he has. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that has been like sort of game changing for quite a lot of people, being able to take this such a small device that can deliver so much, and without compromising on the quality of everything we've done so far. I think that's also the biggest thing to keep in mind, is that the capture technology that you get in Nano Cortex is the same, the one that you get in Quad Cortex, and the quality you get from this on top of all the effects that it includes it's just great. I used to be like in my pre-Neural DSP days, I used to be not an analog snob, but kind of. And I have to say, I sold a lot of gear now that I've been using those products for well, on a daily basis, basically.
Okay, let's go there for a second. Tell me about your background.
So yeah, maybe I should introduce myself. I am Francois. I'm 31 years old, and I'm the lead product manager for software plugins at Neural DSP. I started my product management journey working on physical products in a completely different field, because I was working for L'Oreal on fragrances. That was my first job as a product manager, but kind of a boring one. And I always wanted to work in music, so I very quickly switched gear. And after this, I became a drum product specialist, working for Algam, who's the biggest music instrument distributor in Europe. I did that for almost 2 years, then moved as a software product manager at Arturia, where I was in charge of the whole FX collection for another 2 years, and joined Neural DSP about 3 years ago. So since then, I've been in charge of most of the guitar plugins some of the quad Cortex new FXs as well, and Mantra, of course, which is the latest and greatest from Neural DSP.
So I take it you're a drummer.
I'm not a drummer. I mean, I'm a part-time, well, fourth-time drummer or eighth-time. Yeah, I'm not a very good drummer, but I know things about drum. I know things about gear in general. Let's say.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Are you an engineer as well?
Nope.
Most engineers know a lot about drums, even if they can't play them, because I mean, they know how to tune them. They know what sounds good and what doesn't. More so than drummers, many times. Is what I found. So
Yeah, it's all about physics, I guess.
Well, it's that and its tone as well. You kind of know what works and what doesn't. But so many times you'll have a drummer say, "Well, I think it sounds good," and it's like, "No, it's not going to record well." And we're lucky in Los Angeles here. There are many professional drum tuners that you can call on a session, and they come in, they'll tune everything, they'll change all the heads, they'll do all that stuff for you, so it will sound dynamite. And it doesn't happen everywhere else, but here, it's a really big advantage.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my job as product specialist in the drum district, like I was in charge of Zildjian for all of Europe almost, and like managing artist relationship and stuff, but I felt like an imposter by then.
Well, again, you have to know more about the product than how to play it, than how to use it sometimes. So yeah, I get it. Let's come back here to Mantra and Neural DSP. So I assume that this is the first of many studio products, so to speak.
I mean, yeah, that has always been the intention, as I was mentioning before. Mantra is the first. I can't really tell you in which direction we'll go later, but we're definitely considering doing more in the future. Yeah. But just to reassure also all the Neural DSP fans out there, like it doesn't mean that we're gonna drop everything guitar related, even in the software world. Like this was more of an attempt of, seeing what kind of interest we could get from a plugin like this, being known as mostly as a metal guitar company. Nobody was quite expecting us to go in that direction. And actually the day of the release, like I was stressed out like crazy. I was like, is this gonna how well is it gonna be received? And well, we've done our job right, because like the plugin got many praises. But yeah, it's so it was the first one. Will probably not be the last, and don't worry, we'll keep doing guitar plugins as well.
So I assume that you chose the vocal area because did you feel it was the most needed? It was the area that requires the most processing?
I think as if you're like a, let's say, advanced to semi-pro user, like you have many options when you can that you can use to process vocals, but like usually like the flow is quite broken, like the workflow is quite broken. And what we've identified as an opportunity was basically how can we streamline that workflow, and how can we provide something that works in real time, which was what we discussed before with the tracking mode. So the biggest opportunity for us was there. Offer something that would be simple enough to use for beginners, but like with enough features that it would attract a more semi-pro to pro audience, without any compromises on the sound or the ease of use, and that would work real time. And if you put all that together, then you get Mantra pretty much.
I want to come back to quad Cortex for a second. Do you ever get players pushback over latency?
There's a really small portion of people who will tell you that they can notice the latency when they play. If you take into consideration roundback latency when you play guitar, especially when you're a guitarist, like I'm not even talking about like studio environment or anything like this. I don't have the exact numbers in mind, but I think 10 milliseconds of latency is the same thing as standing 3 meters away from your amplifier. So I think that's in this ballpark. I don't have the exact number. Feel free to back me up on this if you know the exact one. So telling that you can feel it is, well, I'm sure some people feel it, but it's a very minor part of the people using quad Cortex and our stuff.
The reason why I mention is when way back when Line 6 first came out with their first unit, and I can't remember the name of it, but
The pod.
the pod, yes, right. And I was a beta tester on it, and I thought it was just fine, in terms of latency. And I can remember talking to the product manager, and he was naming all of these big name guitar players that were saying they can't use it because of the latency. And it was 6 milliseconds. I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing. How can they feel that? It must be in the same realm of hearing the difference between what batteries you're using in your pedals. But I couldn't feel it personally.
Me playing with the quad Cortex or with any of our plugins using the smallest buffer size, like I can't feel the latency personally. It has never been something that bothered me. But like the worst part is when you start like adding latency up, whether you're like playing guitar or recording vocals. And I think that's what happened most of the time with those pro guitarists is that, sure, like you have the latency of your modeler, let's say, but then maybe in front of it you have a Digitech Whammy that has like ADA conversion. And then after this, it will go to a PA that has like a linear phase crossover filter. And then you will get like more latency. So one on top of the other, it will end up and result in something that you can feel for sure. Quad Cortex alone with headphones, I mean, I can't feel anything, and most people can't.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Sometimes when I hear about that, I'm thinking, geez, what are they feeling? But again, it makes sense. If you start to layer a lot of processors on, then yeah, that makes sense. And that's probably what happens, I would imagine.
Yeah, that was what we learned also, like building Mantra, is that if you take into consideration like a standard vocal chain, you will probably have anywhere between 4 to 6 plugins just on the channel. Each of these plugins will induce the like at least 32 samples of latency, because like you have to have this as a buffer between plugins.
That's not much.
So if you have 6 plugins, you take like 32 samples times 6 plus the latency induced by the processors themselves. In the end, you can easily get to, I don't know, 200 milliseconds or something like this. So that's also the beauty of the all-in-one solution, is that those buffers, like we can minimize them because we don't have like multiple instances. We can just pack everything into one single block that will do it all and reduce the latency this way. And that was the biggest opportunity to us.
Who do you see using Mantra? Who is the biggest audience for that?
Honestly, like I would say pretty advanced user, like intermediate to advanced user. Like the people who have a home studio at home that like to record themselves, that have like a potentially like some work to do fast or issues to solve fast, and they don't want necessarily to spend the time to try to dig and how to notch every single frequency or whatever. I'm saying this because like one of the hit features in Mantra is the what we call the Sculpt module, which is a smart EQ that basically takes your frequency response and matches it to references that we've designed internally. And by doing so, you can basically tame down the resonances of your room or basically correct the microphone that you're using. So in that regard, it's a very smart feature. And of course, you could do the same thing manually by creating notches in FabFilter Pro Q or something like this. But like here, you just hit play, record for 7 seconds, and you get like a pretty good outcome of it. And for these kind of features, like Mantra is super nice. You have a okay home studio, nasty resonances, you get this, it's fine. And then, yeah, I mean, you will all get the pros that will tell you that they prefer their full signal chain, full of analog gear, etc. We're not trying to convince that everybody that our stuff is better than what they're used to. But I think that for most people, you can get like 90% there just with Mantra on any, like, let's say, modern genre or contemporary genre.
Okay, let's go back to Sculpt for a second. So you say it's smart in that it's it takes a sample of the vocal and it compares it to what exactly? To is it to a table of other vocals that you've You think that sounds good?
Well, without being too technical, basically we do an analysis for like I think it's 7 seconds of a bit of audio that gets we get the average frequency response of these 7 seconds, and then in Mantra you have 12 different presets that you can choose from, which are target curves, and these have been designed using, well, basically a white noise through a bunch of different filters to get to ideal frequency responses. And then we match your 7 seconds of audio, like the frequency response, the average frequency response to this target. This is how it works. But on top of that, you have a compressor, or should I say like a spectral compressor, that will basically attenuate whatever is like above the target curve if it goes above a certain volume, which means that you can basically cancel the room modes. You can it can act as a de-esser if the S's, the sibilances are too high compared to target, then they will get reduced. And it also acts as some sort of a normalizer before hitting the rest of the chain. So if you think about it, it's like your fast track to polished vocals very, very fast. And it's located at the beginning of the chain because it does like all the leveling and the nice work before the rest of the chain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is, I mean, there's a lot of smart equalizers, for instance, and what they'll do is they'll have a table of what is considered the best sounding guitar, for instance, and they do 100 of them, and okay, this is the best sounding one, so let's make your guitar sound just like this. But that doesn't work in mixing because it's how it fits with the rest of the track that's important. Now,
Absolutely.
that being said, the way you're doing it makes a lot more sense. And I have a story about this. So I did an album with, I was a producer. I did an album with Ken Scott, the great engineer producer, did David Bowie and the Beatles, and he would always use the same microphones. And he would always have the same EQ on the same microphones. And I was wondering, okay, why is he doing this? So one day we have a drum track and we need a second set of drums, just, a different drum sound. So he pulls the first drums out, puts the second one in, doesn't change anything at all, doesn't change the EQ, and it sounded great. And it occurred to me he was EQing the microphone, not the drum sound. It's like, well, that's pretty brilliant. Actually, that's the right way to do it when it's all said and done. And not many approach things that way. But you're closer to that than most smart EQs, for instance.
I mean, yeah, that's if you think about it, yeah, he was EQing the microphone and probably the resonances of the room at the same time.
Yes.
And that was kind of the approach with Mantra, like remove the resonances, remove the annoying bits, and then later on in the chain, you have another EQ that you can use to, color the sound a little bit more. You'll get compression, you'll get saturation. But like this Sculpt module is just, it's a problem solver for EQ and compression, basically.
Yeah.
That's all it
That
does.
makes sense. What don't people know about Neural DSP that you wish they did?
I mean, that's probably one thing, that we're a bunch of humans behind this company. Like, it's great to have the opportunity to speak with people like you, but it's an amazing company to be part of. We're a little bit more than 100% now working at Neural DSP. What people tend to don't know or confuse is that we're located in Finland and not in Sweden, and that probably 2/3 of the employees are working remotely all across the globe. So in the headquarters here in Helsinki, you have about 40-ish people, but like the rest is like working remotely. In the States for some, in England, in Poland, in France, in my case. And finally, that's Quad Cortex is made in Finland in a factory that we own in Helsinki downtown. Yeah, that people don't know usually.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, what don't people know about Francois that you wish they did?
That's a good question. That's even trickier. That's I'm the least Neural DSP guitarist in the company because I don't play metal at all. I don't listen to metal at all. So yeah, that's a good thing that I worked on products such as architect Matteo Sasato and Morgan amplifiers because I'm the target audience to these products. But when it comes to playing in drop A in super high gain amplifiers, I'm not the best for this.
Well, what's interesting is it seems like the focus is towards metal with the neural cortex, quad cortex, for instance. But there are so many other players that I know that are not metal players that use it, and it seems to work. And I'd never get the impression from the marketing that it's focused at a particular genre at all, which I think is really good.
Yeah, I think that comes down from like the early days of Neural DSP. If you look back in time, the first plugin released was a replica of a dark glass pedal, which was definitely tailored for a metal bass player. Then we released 14 Nameless, which is a super high gain amplifier. Then the next one was Pliny, and then we went with Gojira. We went with like all those metal bands, metal artists, metal amplifiers. But if you use the Quad Cortex and you open the amplifiers library, it's not just high gain amps, not at all. And I feel that some people stayed with the impression that we were like a, metal guitar oriented like company. But it's really not the case. It's really not the case. And we're making progress every single day to sort of broaden the scope of what we offer, either in the plugin world or on Quad Cortex.
Well, you can tell by mantra.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
that's not aimed towards a metal vocalist, for instance. That's any vocalist, from what I could tell, anyway.
Yeah, and even the demo video, there is not a single scream in it. And some people got bothered because of this, but you can't please everyone, I guess.
Yeah, right, right. Okay, last question, Francois, and thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
What's the best piece of advice that maybe somebody imparted to you, or maybe you learned along the way?
You know what? Yeah, because the job that I got now is pretty much my dream job, right? So for anybody who's dreaming about working in the music industry, um, make sure to follow your dream. I know it sounds really cheesy said like this, but there is nothing in my resume that would have led me to like work in the music industry in the first place. Uh, I studied economics. I went to business school, but like the only reason why I ended up here is because on the side I was modifying amplifiers, building guitar pedals, nerding on forums about like the gear that this guitarist or that guitarist was using on stage. And I've made my way to a state where now I can work on those products that I used to be fascinated about since I was very young, since I was like probably 12 or 13. So the music industry is really small. Tons of people know each other, so try to meet as many people in the music industry, and you can make your way and find like some great opportunities there.
You just mentioned something about modifying guitars and building pedals. So you have quite an analog background then.
I do. The funny story is that like I have a pretty good understanding of schematics and electronics in general in the analog domain, but like everything that our DSP developers are doing is just black magic to me. The good thing is that like we understand each other because when they talk to me about different filter topologies or like different nonlinearities, that sparks something. Like I understand pretty much all of it.
Okay, well, that brings up something that's very philosophical then. For the most part, when people, when companies, developers develop software, they're trying to model something that's analog. Except some of the newer companies that are thinking outside the box and are going, wait, we're just going to do whatever works here rather than trying to copy something that was in a different domain. How does Neural DSP approach that?
I think it's all about balance. Well, I will take two completely different opposite examples. The first one is Quad Cortex. If you open Quad Cortex, all the amplifiers most of the pedals, they're just either replicas or nods to existing devices. Why is that? Because guitar players tend to be really conservative when it comes to the gear. They tend to be very traditional at the same time. You want to play a Marshall, you know what the Marshall sound is, so you will reach for the Marshall sound. Same for, I don't know, a Boss compressor. The guitarist will know for sure what it is, and he will just reach for it. And then you have the opposite side of the spectrum, which is Mantra, where we try to combine kind of best of both worlds. We have those super digital, precise effects, like the tune module, the Sculpt EQ, which is like a problem solver, the harmonizer, which has been designed from scratch. And at the same time, because we love analog and we love the color that analog can bring, we have those fancy models of a de-stressor, of an LA2A, of a PCM70 circular delay, like all those things that were used back in the days in studios and loved by many, not only for what they're meant to do, but also for the color that they had. And yeah, I think the approach is going to be more and more like this, even in future guitar related products. Basically, how to combine those two worlds, because there's some beauty in the analog domain. We all know that, but like modern tools also offer like stuff that you just can't do in the analog world. So yeah, combining is probably the best way to approach it, I think.
Thanks for listening and being in my inner circle. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to questions@bobbyowsinski.com. You can also learn all about the latest in music, audio, and production news, and find out about openings for my latest online classes at bobbyowsinski.com. This is Bobby Owsinski. I will see you next time.